Okay, so this is sort of a handycam, like, instant idea that I just was working through that I'm gonna go through the process of thought. The main idea came from I was looking into the GRE, but I wanted to look into seeing if I could find information on the people who design the GRE. Since that's sort of the level of measure that we use, I want to know the support for why they choose to measure the things that they do, and I want to kind of, judge if it's legitimate support or not. So I got to reading, and I got to the point where they were talking about answering questions with computers and highlighting text, and I was thinking, well, what if I highlight a different section of text because I disagree with what they're kind of looking for, but I can provide valid support that you'd be able to do handwriting, right? Whether or not they read that, I mean, it's still there. You don't get that on the computer. So then I was thinking, like, what is it about handwriting? Why do I find that that's important? So then I had to write down this idea, and I was thinking about this class where let me focus in on this part. So I was thinking about this class where you would provide one notebook to the students, and then you would assign all the work in the class, all the writing in the class, to that one notebook. So you'd really limit the amount of writing that could go in there, right? All the different types. However, you would assign rough drafts and final drafts to the same notebook. Now, by doing this, you eliminate the ability for a student to do a bunch of rough drafts and then just turn in final work. The process, what you're actually trying to attain from this, is to be able to, I conceptualize as learning through reading the process. And what you would hope the students would do is write a rough draft, make corrections on that rough draft, scribble out different things, and you'd have them date them, right? I mean, I just added that in. It seems that's a good way that you could measure attainment growth in different learning things if you had them date their changes. But the idea of it is basically the same. You're trying to understand how they composed their thought, rather than just their final thought. Because I think if you can understand what their thought process is and how they work through the ideas and what they were really trying to express, I think you get a really great understanding for who the author is, what the author is trying to say, instead of just in classroom just saying like, oh, well, this doesn't fit the mold of what I was looking for, it must be wrong, just because there's a possibility that you could have misinterpreted the author. So that takes us over here to, I probably shouldn't tip the camera like that since I'm going to upload this. The author's perspective. Typed papers are too minimal in the amount of information that could be shared. You miss out on all of this information when you type your papers and turn them in. All the teacher sees is just text. So if your vocabulary isn't necessarily the greatest, that's sort of the one limiting factor. I think that if I could turn in my rough drafts and show sort of the ideas and concepts that I was trying to work through, I think maybe the presentation at the end means a little bit less if you can understand what I was trying to present. So it's not entirely the author's fault when the person reading it misunderstands it. And then I move up here because I needed more space to expound. So you would this is present in classrooms and educational documents, theories, anything that we value up very highly, this sort of text communication that we use to reach each other. It's very limiting because in person you get sort of the falters and the stutters, and sort of you see someone composing the message. But online, all you see is text. There is some aspects that you can read, but let's say like you don't have online in the classroom. You only have text, so you're missing out on the personality of the author and what the author is probably trying to speak. So I think if we shared more of our notes, and I deem notes as handwritten. I know that a lot of people take notes on their computers, but I say handwritten because it's proven to be more effective for memory. And I know it's sort of barbaric technologically, but it's better for learning. And if you force someone to get back to that, surely it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be a shock to their system and they may resist it. But once they do it, I think that you'll be able to learn from them as the teacher, as the reader, and they'll be able to learn from themselves if they can see sort of the adjustments that they made. Because if you take your notes on the computer, all those backspaces, I don't think it keeps track of how many times you backspace and how many times you copy and paste and how many times you cut things and move them around. And that would be really great. I would like to see my process, you know. So I think that if we could see each other's notes, we might be able to learn from each other better and adapt more. And I think that's what we're really missing out on. So that's that idea.